So now we can talk about some of the common mistakes and pitfalls that people fall into when they operate their social media campaigns. This is very important stuff, and some of the stuff that I've talked about a little bit so far, but I want to get into a little bit more deeply. So we talked about being stagnant. This is just adding to it, letting your social media sites, websites, or marketing materials become outdated. It doesn't matter what kind of marketing material it is, whether it's your menu, whether it's your website, whether it is your coupons that you send out on a weekly basis, whatever it is. When those become outdated and not interesting and exciting, people are just not interested. People have very short attention spans now. I, for one, I know I have a short attention span. So you're going to be perceived as a lazy business who's not proactive. Not responding with diligence and empathy to complaints. By this, I mean exactly what the guy from Domino's did when he was looking up information that was negative or positive about his restaurant and responding to those people directly. A lot of people have made the mistake of getting personal, taking complaints on a very personal touch and personal note, and saying, well, you must have come at a bad time, we must have been too busy, we couldn't handle business. Why are your doors open? So that's something that had happened quite a bit in the past 5 years, and people are starting to realize that you really do have to start, if that person was in your restaurant complaining, would you treat them like that? We have to think about that. That storefront, we're at a storefront, not just an online community, right? Having social network updates with no useful information and value. I've touched on this a couple of times. People are not interested in hearing about, your weekly special every Wednesday. If you're putting on Facebook, wings are on special today. Wings are on special today. Wings are on special. People are just getting uninterested. They're not excited about it. You got to try and spice it up with a new sauce or a new idea, or invite them to come down and check out the new bartender that's awesome, or whatever it happens to be. Something that's interesting and exciting. You have to mix it up. A good rule of thumb is to have 5 things that add value. If you every 10 posts, have 5 things that add value, 3 things that are informative, and 2 things that are just whatever about your business. Something that mix it up, right? So that's a rule of thumb that I think has been thrown around quite a bit. It's working quite well, because you can't always be adding value if you want to stay updated, because then you're going to be losing a little bit of dollars. And use the mom test when posting material. For some reason, people think they can just put whatever they want on Facebook, swear, use bad grammar and stuff like that. People always ask, how, what results in a swear word? And you say, well, what your mom said, right? It's kind of one of those things where you can kind of safeguard yourself a little bit. So now I want to talk about strategy, social media strategy, which has become very important over the past few years. What's your goal, right? What's your goal? What are you going to do to get there, and how are you going to get there? So first of all, you have to decide, is social media strategy, is that sort of marketing strategy going to be the right one for you? And that's based on whether or not the future of your business, the future demographic of your business has an opportunity to be online if they're on those online communities. You don't want to be wasting a lot of time promoting your business online and doing a lot of work if it's not going to be creating dollars. So once you realize, yeah, okay, I do have a business that my customers are using online communities now, or they will be in the future, based on what I'm going to teach them, or whatever. You have to decide on whether it's going to be the right strategy for you. Simple as that. And if it isn't, abandon the whole idea in the first place, right? Like if you have a website that's never being used by customers and it's not creating business for you, and you're not keeping it updated, there's no sense having it. You might as well unpublish it. What resources do we have to apply to the campaign? So how many hours do you have in a week? How much drive do your employees have to help you support this idea, this campaign? How much money are you willing to spend on it? Are you willing to forget about the advertising dollars that you're putting into radio and print and apply it to social media professionals who hopefully will be able to return the investment? So you have to figure out which resources you have, what tools you have. And then you get a little bit creative. Which platforms do you want to use? Do you want to use Facebook and create a Facebook page that's going to be connecting with 500 million users around the world, potentially? Or do you want to focus on something like Fogle, which is a much more tight-knit community of restaurant professionals? Or do you want to use LinkedIn, which is a very, it's probably the 4th biggest social network as far as community goes, where you're going to be connecting with other professionals, not necessarily restaurant-based, but other professionals. More of a, it's almost more of a job seekers tool, to be honest with you, but it's also a very effective one for getting information. So decide which platforms you want to use. What are some specific techniques that you want to try? Do Do you want to do giveaways? Do you want to ask for customers' ideas on how to switch your menu? Do you want to get information on what other people are doing? Whatever it happens to be, you want to decide on which techniques you want to use specifically to help boost your social campaign and make it worthwhile. And then once you decide on that, well, you have your strategy. So now it's time to implement it. Implement the tools, figure out which resources you have that you're going to apply to it, implement it, and now you measure and analyze it. So did it work? Did it achieve what we wanted it to achieve? Are we currently making a return on that investment? What are we using to measure those tools, whether they be online coupons, so on and so forth, and then reformat it for your next 6-month period or your next year, whatever it happens to be. Just like any other marketing strategy would go. It has to be thought of just like that, not just as a social media campaign. It's a marketing strategy. So that's basically the presentation, everybody. I wanted to just go through a quick conclusion as to what we talked about, just to summarize what we discussed when we defined social media. I think it was a bit long-worded, but it gives you an idea of what it might be about. And of course, if you guys want the PowerPoint, just ask me for my email, or you can write your email on this paper up here, and I can send you PowerPoint if you want electronic copies of what you have there. I can send you those as well. Why use SMM? We talked about that a lot. We talk about the SMM platforms, which pitfalls and mistakes you can avoid, and how to avoid them. We talked about the strategy just now. That's it. So if anybody